I'm Michelle, and I'm so glad you're here. And I have a guest today. I have the lovely Anna who's going to ask a parenting question. Hi, Anna. Can you tell us a tiny bit about yourself?
Yeah. Hi. My name is Anna. I live on the East Coast with my husband and three children. My oldest is 9, my middle is 6, and my youngest is 3.5.
Amazing. I'm so glad you're here. And you have a great question. I asked on Instagram, does anybody want to ask a question? And this was the first one I got, I think, the
Oh,
other
was it
day.
really?
Yeah. So ask your question and let's get into it.
Okay. So my question was what to do when your child, especially when they're in their tweens and teens, starts to become friends with someone who could potentially be a negative influence
Okay,
or
good.
lead them down the wrong path.
Yeah, good question. First off, what were you like as a teen?
Myself, I I honestly I didn't have very many friends. I think I had a really hard time making friends. And then the one friend that I did find, um, I was so desperate to have friends that I just kind of like did whatever she said and like said yes to whatever she wanted and was kind of like the yes girl to
Mhm.
her. And I think that that very negatively influenced me for sure.
Okay. Okay, so tell me what happened? What happened in your youth? What things did you experience that you think were negative?
I think it just put me in this like a negative headspace of feeling like I wasn't liked or valued if I didn't agree with absolutely everything that someone said. Um, and I think as I grew older and like started to become an adult and date and meet people, um, then that really was hard because uh, I ended up being having relationships with people who um, didn't necessarily serve me very well.
Okay.
If
And
that
so
makes sense.
yeah, it makes complete sense. So tell me what were your parents like? What how were mistakes treated? Was there punishment? Tell me about that piece.
Yeah. So when I was really young, my parents were really involved in the church, and so they did spank us. But I remember my mom saying, I think she stopped spanking us when we were probably like 5 or 6, maybe 4. I can't remember. Um, but I remember my mom always said that was like her biggest parenting regret. Um, and then as we got older, I think my dad in particular was kind of like I guess, like OG, like gentle parent. Like I remember him scolding me twice in my whole life. And I think every other time, like he was very respectful and like courteous of um, how we felt about things. Um,
Amazing. And what
but
about your
yeah,
mom after she stopped spanking you? Did she use punishment? What did she use?
is it terrible that I can't remember?
No, I mean,
Like
some
I can't remember. So I do the one thing that I do remember about my mom when we were growing up is um she came from a very abusive dynamic in her family,
Mhm,
and I remember her kind of leaning on me as like an adult friend and kind of being having some like
mhm.
um inappropriate conversations that she should probably have with a friend and not her child. But in
Mm.
terms of like if I did something wrong or something, I don't really remember a ton about how she reacted.
Did you feel like you were
So
responsible for how your mom felt in some ways or making her feel better in some ways?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then
Okay.
I think when I was like an older teen, my parents divorced, and I think I kind of really pushed back on my mom, and we have a great relationship now. We've definitely mended, but I remember really pushing back when I was like between 16 and 18 years old on that.
Yeah. And what was her response to that?
Um, Actually, I remember sitting at the kitchen table with her, and she said, if you don't like me, that's okay. I understand. And she had like tears running down her face. If you don't like me, it's okay. If you don't like me, it's okay. And I remember feeling like, I gave her a hug, and I remember feeling really bad because like I didn't want her to feel bad
Yeah.
about it, and like I wanted to comfort her in that moment because I could tell that she was really hurting.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah.
So would it be fair to say, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that
Hmm.
you were more of a person that tried to make other people feel okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Okay. So that would make sense why you glommed onto this person who you became friends with and you just did everything they said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then it would also make sense that you're scared your son's gonna do that.
Yeah.
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 D
100%.
Is your son that temperament? And was he raised that way?
No. No, shamefully, I have spanked him once. It was a terrible, terrible, terrible moment. I felt awful about it, and I hate even admitting
Okay.
it. But,
Happens.
um,
Happen.
I prepared with him and all that. But he's got ADHD. My oldest son, the one who asked the question, but he's got ADHD, and um, one thing that I do notice about him, I mean, we're obviously not the same person. We're very different people, but I do notice that he is kind of how I was. He's very like he really wants to make friends and he really wants to fit in and he really wants to like connect with this group of people.
Mhm.
Um, so I think I can kind of see similarities, but kind of see differences. So
Yeah. And so maybe this is very triggering for you, right? Because you're like, you're seeing him in the same spot you were in years ago,
yes, yes,
and you're worried.
100%.
Yeah. And so I think
Yeah.
when we come from parenting from that fear, right, then we start to act maybe irrational, or we start to think irrationally, or we start to get so
Mhm.
scared that we're like, it's overwhelming for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you've parented him in a way where he doesn't feel responsible for your feelings and he feels
Mhm.
like he can say no or make somebody mad or have his own feelings, do you think that he might take those lessons that he's learned the last, I don't know, did you say he's 13, 12, 13?
He's 9. He's
Oh,
only
he's
9. So he
9.
he yeah, no, so he's just entering that preteen stage. I'm sorry.
Last 9 years, whatever he's learned
Yeah.
at home, do you think he's would be able to stand up for himself in social moments?
I hope so, and I really hope so. He has told me like a couple times where some things happen with his friends where like they're using bad words, or there's one time when just very recently he was playing with his friends out at the park. He ran home and got his dad's like jug of water that he uses all the time. And because they were all thirsty, so he was really sweet. He grabbed them all a jug of water, and his dad said, "Just make sure that it doesn't get broken. Bring it back in good condition, because he used it every day." And so he brought it there, and he came back, and he didn't have the jug. And he was like, "Hey, buddy, what's up? Where's Dad's jug?" And I guess one of his friends like smashed it with a baseball bat and was like throwing it around. Um, and I think in that moment he did feel a little bit scared to stand up and say, "Hey, that's my dad's jug. Please stop. Please
Yeah,
don't do that."
yeah,
Because it was kind of like you get caught up, or I'm assuming he kind of got caught up in it.
yeah. And
Um,
equally,
so
how did he feel when he had to tell his dad, and how did that go down, and how, and yeah, what happened?
I think he was nervous to tell
Okay.
him. He was
Yeah.
nervous to tell him. Um, and his dad was he was kind of upset because he used it it was his water jug he uses every day to drink when he's in the office, his water. Um, and I mean, I could tell that he felt really guilty about it. Like he didn't feel good about it.
Yeah. And so if he felt guilty about it and he didn't feel good
Mhm.
about it, could this have been a good lesson for him in the realm of, his own friends? And was he able to get to, so we want to make sure that he's able to get to his own internal remorse and he isn't so worried about what you guys think that
Yeah.
that he feels that shame from you all. I
Mhm.
think one of the best things we can do is not shame his mistakes,
Yeah.
right? And so then he doesn't feel responsible for your feelings, and then he goes into his internal remorse, which it sounds like he did.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
How? I'm sorry if this kind of goes off topic, but
No,
like
no, you're fine.
how would you I guess how would you kind of correct that mistake without shaming him? Because I think that he does feel shame really quickly and really easily.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
maybe you are that way too. It sounds like you were in your
Oh my
child.
gosh, 10,000%. Yeah.
So, do you need to correct him? Does he know that it's wrong?
think he does. I think he does. So,
Of course he does. And you said it
yeah.
yourself. He got to his internal remorse. That's that's the natural consequence.
Yeah.
He got there,
Mm.
right? He
Yeah.
didn't we don't need anything else because he got to this internal place where he felt bad, right? And now
Mhm.
he gets to decide next time, how bad do I want to feel?
Yeah. Oh, that's a really good point.
So each time these experiences happen, he's learning things.
Yeah.
And I think as long as we take the shame out of the mistakes completely,
Mhm.
yeah, you lost the jug. Yeah, that's a real bummer. How do you feel about that? It's not about us, right? Not
Right.
like your mom would say. Your mom would cry and break down and say,
Yeah.
"You lost my jug. Oh my god, what's you do? Do this to me?" Right?
Right.
And if we don't do that, if we don't make it about us and we're not mad and we're not upset and we don't choose to want to correct,
Yeah.
we allow them to learn.
Hmm. Yeah, that's that's definitely something to chew on because um I feel like I always want to correct.
We all
You
do.
know?
Well, we were
Yeah.
corrected our whole lives,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we still are. We live in a society that's constantly correcting, and how much correction do our kids encounter just in general without outside of us?
It's so, like all day.
Right.
All
So,
day.
wouldn't it be nice if they have one place where they don't have to feel corrected and they
Yeah.
can get to their own internal mechanisms to help them learn the lessons they need to learn?
Yeah.
He'll get there, Anna. He will for sure get there if you just be by his side. When he comes to you and he says they were, hitting the jug and they took
Mhm.
it and this and that,
Yeah.
I would empathize with him. "Oh, that must have
Mhm.
been hard for you to watch. Oh, did you have a hard time? You didn't wanna say anything, did you? I understand." Because that will get him to the internal place of like, "Yeah, that was hard for me to watch. I didn't like that, but I also didn't wanna disappoint my dad."
Yeah.
And now he gets to have this internal struggle because you've held space, right? And you've applied
Right.
empathy so that he can get there on his own. That could be your form of correction.
That sounds like such a soul nourishing way to go about doing that.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
That just sounds so um it doesn't sound like you're even doing that much, but it sounds like you don't even need to, do you?
You don't. You need you don't wanna be permissive or passive. You wanna be
Right.
present in it all, right?
Yeah.
"Oh, this thing happened. This was hard. I'm here. I understand. Oh, daddy was upset. I get it." You are the support. You are the consigliere. You are the counselor and the coach,
Mhm.
as opposed to
Yeah.
being the teacher.
Mhm.
He's his own teacher,
He's his own teacher.
and life is his teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. I gotta write that one down. Life is
Okay.
his teacher.
Good. You don't have to worry about this sweet kid. You just keep supporting him through all his endeavors. You be by his side, and when something big comes up and a kid is doing something like, the other piece is you wanna make sure he's able, and it sounds like he's able to come and tell you, like, "These kids did X, Y, and Z with the jug," right? Maybe he'll be able to come and
Yeah.
like, "They want me to, throw rocks at the whatever," I don't know. And if
Right.
he's able to tell you, you can hold space without shaming him, and that way you will keep those lines of communication open. And then when
Mhm.
you can come with him with empathy, you give him the chance to learn the lesson on his own.
Yeah.
So to just keep being there like that with him through all this
Mhm.
stuff. And each time he'll learn and he'll figure out which friends are the right friends eventually. But it's good that he
Yeah.
can do it at 9 instead of where you and I did it at 25 or 30.
Right. Yeah. What So let's say, a couple years down the line, he's in high school or whatever, and he does find himself with a group of friends who he like when I was a teen, who he does feel kind of afraid to like stand up to.
Yeah.
Like if they're doing something that doesn't feel right with him on the inside, or they're, you know, being maybe kind of bullying another kid, and he's just kind of standing by, knowing that it's not right, but still being kind of afraid
Yeah.
to stand up. I mean, hopefully throughout these years as he grows up, like, you know, we can instill that into him and give him his own like kind of 2 feet to stand on so he feels confident enough to do that. But if there is a case where as he gets older, does that make sense?
Yep. I like how you say, hopefully we give him space to be able to stand up for himself. Let's
Yeah.
just unwind that for 1 second, and then I'll get back to
Okay.
the piece. We want to make sure that he feels like he can stand up to you all, because he won't be able to stand up to anybody else if he can't stand up to you.
Oh, that's good.
So that's the first.
Yeah.
You want to make sure he's able to say, no, I don't want to do that, or you guys are so mean, or blah, 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 or be dysregulated, or have the big outburst, or whatever, even if it's
Mhm.
not quite right,
Yeah.
because we want him to be able to practice on you so that when he gets to the big bullies, he can do it.
Yeah.
So make sure he has a big voice in that house,
Okay.
and that he can stand up to you, and he can say no, and he can be dysregulated, and he can be the jerk if he needs to, because
Yeah.
he's going to need to be a jerk sometime. It's going to serve him well. But if he doesn't know how to do it, if he's always expected to comply, if he's always expected to be respectful, if he's always expected to do everything perfectly and be
Mhm.
calm, then that will be all he knows.
Yeah. He actually had one of those moments last night, which, you know,
Good.
I was kind of proud of myself because I tried, like, I actually, in a really weird way, because I was thinking about how we were going to have our talk today, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have Michelle's voice in my head, and I'm just gonna I'm just gonna kind of be like this calm little like container for him, and he was able just to like kind of rage out a little bit without like being physical, and
Yes.
it was just me and him. It was late at night, um, but yeah, he definitely had one of those moments last night.
Good for you, Anna. That's amazing. Let him have more of that, so that
Yeah.
eventually he'll be able to translate that into these older boys that, or kids that he possibly could be sucked into. The other piece is when and if that happens, and it might not,
Mhm.
really check yourself. Is this about
Yeah.
me and my old past stuff? Or is this
Right.
about him?
Yeah.
Just being able to really differentiate that piece, because you don't want to come with your fear. Parenting from
Right.
fear is not a good place to parent from.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I always know when I'm parenting from fear because I think I always get a little bit more like
Anxious.
controlly and
Yeah,
anxious.
me
Yes.
too.
Yeah.
Me
And
too.
more like lectury,
Uh-huh.
which
Mine's all
never feels good for anyone.
No, mine's all grades.
Yeah.
I didn't have good grades growing up. I wasn't a good student, and so when my kids aren't doing well with the grades and the everything, I'm like,
Yeah.
hyperventilating. I can't take it. And I'm like,
Right.
I care about grades, but for some reason, this is making me insane. It gets very emotional and intertwined and messed up, and even me, I get confused. So
Mhm.
I have to check myself too.
Yeah.
So check yourself there. And then
Okay.
really lean into the idea of empathy and understanding and being the safe space. And I think he's going to get there. I don't think you have
Yeah.
anything to worry about. He might make some mistakes. He might lose another jug or two, but
Just a jug.
he's learning lessons all along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
You're doing great.
I try.
I see that. I can see that. You're doing really great. Just keep on your path. Keep learning the tools. Keep using them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to think if I have any other. Oh, is it okay if I ask one more question involving
Yes.
this?
Yes. Yes.
So, as I what do you think you would do or could do if your child starts hanging out with someone who they know maybe you don't really approve of, or they kind of get the feeling that you don't like, and they start hiding that they're hanging out with them.
Yes.
And like either you find out or they kind of tell you, actually I've been hanging out with this person for like months or whatever. And this is kind of thinking more down the line, or when they're teens and able to drive themselves and stuff. Of course, coming in with empathy and just like listening. But then how would you? Do you know what I mean?
I think we had this happen
Okay.
when Esme was 13, I think, and
Yeah.
we embraced the child fully.
Aw.
Because
Aw.
first of all, these kids who we don't think are good influences, they're just kids.
Yeah.
And they're having their own human experience too. And they probably are good kids deep down. Maybe they're acting out because of their home and life. Maybe they're acting out because of something that's going on for them at school. Maybe they're being bullied. Who knows?
Right.
But the more you embrace this child and give them connection and put them into the fold, you're likely to have them think of you better. So they'll think better of your child. And they'll be, more likely to choose the right thing if they know that there's someone good out there, on their side.
Yeah.
And it also, your kid, my kid would have been doing that. She would have been lying. She would have been sneaking around. She would have been not telling me. She would have been, you don't like her. And it could push her into my child, her personality. It would have made her like this kid more. And so I just took the totally opposite approach. And my daughter figured it out eventually.
That's really sweet advice, actually.
So good.
And it probably felt really good for the other child.
We still love her, actually.
Yeah.
And, each other sometimes, but Esme figured it out. She was like, it's still not a right fit for me, which it wasn't.
Not the right vibe, yeah. Yeah.
Occasionally and have lots of love for her and like whatever.
Yeah.
They're right, their ways. But
right.
She knew deep down and she figured it out. Because the girl did something that was not kind eventually,
Right.
really unkind, actually to me.
Oh,
and
no.
I didn't stand for it.
Oh. She stood up for mama.
And she said, I'm done.
I guess that kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier, is life is their teacher, right?
Yeah. And the more connected we can be to everybody, kid, your kid, our partners, everything works better. The better our relationships are. Because my bonded relationship with Esme is the only reason she chose to take my side in that upset. Had I been like, she's mean, she's that, she might have taken her friend's side.
Yeah.
Because she knew I had this other girl's best interest at heart, because I took her on vacation with us. I brought her to the house. I was super kind and nice. So there's no way I could be blamed for anything.
Oh, man. Yeah. Sorry.
Good.
That's really beautiful to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I think
it really is.
These kids that we think are bad influences, they might be, but they also are kids.
Yeah. Probably going through their own rough patch, which is why they they might have gotten led down that road anyways.
Maybe they need you. Maybe they don't have an adult who believes in them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you're called. You are called.
I'm called, my little guy.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
You're all good. We'll say goodbye. This was great, Anna. Thank you so much for coming on the Peace and Parenting podcast. I really appreciate it, and I'm so glad.
Thank you so much.
You're so
Thank you so much for having me on. This was such an enlightening and nourishing conversation to be a part of. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome. I hope I see you in the online world some more.
Oh, I'll be there. I'll be there.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Bye.